So let's go ahead and dive into the Dream for All waitlist. What does it mean and what should you do next? All right. So waitlist FAQ. This is really the most basic question that I'm getting. The most common question that I'm getting is, how is the waitlist working? How many people are on the waitlist? What are my chances to qualify to buy a home because I'm at this particular number on the waitlist? And so I'm going to be covering all of that with you right now. The first thing is the waitlist is per region. And we're going to look at the regions in a moment. We're going to go into a lot of detail about what that means and what your chances are, in my opinion. But the waitlist is per region. Your number, now this, by the way, I'm going to be really clear. Everything that I'm telling you is based on my best understanding. Cal HAFA has not been very clear. They did clarify 100% the waitlist is per region. They did clarify 100% that the waitlist is 3 times the size of the number of vouchers per region. So let me explain to you what Cal HAFA's original intention was. Is Cal HAFA was going to have 1,700 winners and 1,700 people on the wait list. And as I'm getting some numbers and I'm seeing people on Friday telling me, hey, I'm number 850. I'm like, well, wait a second, because Cal HAFA said the wait list was going to be per region, but no region's getting more than 425 vouchers. So how can somebody be number 850? And so I asked them, and I said, is it per region? And they said, yes, it's per region. And I said, that doesn't make any sense, because how can somebody be greater than number 425? And they said, oh, well, we tripled the number of people on the wait list. And I said, why did you do that? And they said, because we didn't want any chance that we'd have to open up the lottery submission portal again. We didn't want any chance that we're going to give people hope that there was new money, because it would create confusion if they said, hey, go ahead and register for Dream for All, and everybody thinks there's new money and it's going to create a major problem. And so they said, we're not going to let that happen. And so what we're going to do, and they didn't say this publicly, but they told me now, they tripled the number of winners. Now think about that for a second. That means Cal HAFA really thought that in 1,700 vouchers would go through the 1,700 people they issued them to, and likely all be taken up with at least with just 1,700 waitlisters. But they tripled it just in case. So if you're further on the list, your chances of getting picked are very, very, very slim. You're the backup to the backup. And if you're really at the end of the list, Cal HAFA sees 0 chance we're ever going to get to the end of the list, which is why they made the list 3 times the size. And so those of you who are at the highest end of the list, and I'll show you the math, I would be looking at alternative options. Again, if you don't like the alternative options, wait. Maybe a lot of people ahead of you are saying, I don't want to do it anyway, and you have a shot. So there's a lot of variables that we're going to be looking at here. But what it all comes down to is the pull through versus fallout percentages. Now, before I go through all of that, I want to share with you the regions. So let's look at the regions. So these are, let's see if I can zoom out a smidge and put everything onto the screen. All right, so there we go. All right, so you should be able to see everything on my screen, and you should be able to see the region. So you got the Bay Area represents 21% of the state. Now, this is my math. This is not Cal HAFA's math. Let me back up. The percentage of the state, I got that from Cal HAFA. Cal HAFA last September, published the results of the 2023 Dream for All, and they gave me these 2 numbers. So they said the Bay Area, they said what the share was of 2023's numbers, and what that compares to the percentage of the state's population. Now, maybe that percentage of the state's population has been updated since last year, so that I don't know. But based on last year's population distribution, the Bay Area represented 21% of the state's population. Cal HAFA made it clear there are 1,700 vouchers that were issued right now. Now, in the past, I had said there will be between 1,700 and 2,200 vouchers. Well, that depends on what purchase price somebody's buying at. Because if somebody buys at $500,000, they're only getting $100,000 of help from the state. And so the Cal HAFA said, you know what, we're going to be safe right now. We're going to go ahead and issue only the number of vouchers that allow for everyone to have access to the full 150 grand. So 1,700 people can use the money as long as they all use $150,000. But not everybody's going to use $150,000. So they'll be able to issue more than the 1,700 vouchers in the end. There'll be more than 1,700 home buyers that are created through this program. But they issued 1,700 vouchers. They were going to issue 1,700 waitlisters, but they tripled that. So again, the number of winners is my math. The number of waitlisters is my math. I feel really, really good about my math. I feel really good that we're pretty darn close to these numbers. So in the Bay Area, you have 350 winners, and you have 3 times that, or 1,050 on the wait list. Grand total, you have 1,700 winners. You have 5,100 people on the wait list. That means that CalHFA sent out 6,800 out of the 17,000 people that submitted. 6,800 got either a winner notification or a wait list notification. I am very nervous for you that are on the wait list, especially if your number on the wait list is greater than the number of vouchers allocated to your region. Okay, so I want to pause for a quick second and say, if you have questions about the regions, questions about what I'm referring to, please feel free to post it right now. I've got a bunch of people on the call right now that probably will ask questions that people who watch later are likely going to want to ask. So hopefully this all makes sense, and you can take a screenshot right now and kind of digest it, but figure out what region you're in. All the counties are listed here. Figure out what region you are in. In my opinion, if your voucher number is greater than the number of winners in that region, your chances are very, 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 very low. Now, let me explain to you why. So Sal says, I'm in Fresno, Central Valley region, waitlisted number 491. So I'm going to use Sal as an example. So Sal, there are 170 people in the Central Valley that got a voucher. He's waitlisted number 491. That makes him 19th from the bottom. Sal, forgive me, I'm not trying to be as negative as that might sound. It's just a fact. There's only 19 more people that are further up the wait list than you are. And CalHFA said, we have zero expectation we're ever going to get to the bottom of the wait list. So if they have zero chance they're going to get to 510, what are the chances they're getting to 491? So Sal, and I'm using Sal as an example, if Sal was greater than 170 on the wait list, I think it's a really, really slim chance. He's way greater than 170. I think there's really, 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 really slim chance. Heather says, if someone doesn't use $150,000, does the extra money go towards the down payment of the people on the regional wait list? Yes. So I like to think of this like you're making sugar cookies for Christmas, and you got those little patterns that you're stamping out. And so you make the cookie dough, you flatten it out, and then you stamp out all the cookies that you can to make the cool shapes and the reindeer and the sleigh and Santa Claus. But in the end, you have the extra dough that was left over in between. That's kind of like what's happening right now. Every person, some are going to take 150, some are going to take 100, some are going to take 80, and there'll be extra dough left over. Well, if you're anything like my family, you put all that together and then you start eating some of the dough. But the truth is, you flatten it back out and you're able to stamp out 4 or 5 more cookies. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to take the extra money. You got 10 grand from this person that wasn't used and 60 grand from this person that wasn't used. And they're going to issue new vouchers to people on the wait list using that extra money. But that's not going to happen, in my opinion, until the end of September. So your chances of getting money, and I'll talk about the timeline on it in a second, your biggest chance of moving up the wait list is going to happen quarterly as the 3-month deadline for the people that got the voucher ends. Let's see here. Kartik says, Bay Area waitlisted 293. So there's 350 people in the Bay Area. So Kartik, you are less than the total of vouchers issued. I think you have a decent chance. Now, I'll go through the math in a minute to explain how good of a chance. But if you're over the 100%, if you're over the number of vouchers issued, your chances are very, 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 very small. If you're over double the number of vouchers, it's very, 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 very small. If you're under the number of vouchers that issued, I think you got a decent chance. And obviously, the lower you are, the better off you are. Mohammed says, I'm waitlisted number 102 for LA. I think you got a great chance, Mohammed. So the Los Angeles market, 425 vouchers, which means you're in the top 25th percentile. I'll explain to you the percentiles in a minute. Fiona says, can you add more of your own savings to the 150 down because houses in the Bay Area are so expensive? 5% of the purchase price, that's it. So using the voucher money, if you bought $1 million home, you can put $50,000 for down payment, plus the closing costs out of your pocket, plus the 150 from the state. So the biggest down payment you can put on $1 million home is $200,000. If you said, no, I have another 150 of my own, and so I'd like to take Cal Halfa's 150 and my 150 and put that together is $300,000 so that I can buy $1 million home and have a loan amount of 700 grand. The answer is no. You're not allowed. The idea is if you have more than 5% that you want to put down, then you don't need the Dream for All money. That's the idea. Nothing's perfect. No set of rules is going to apply perfectly to every buyer in every market under every circumstance. But that's how Cal Halfa tried to limit the money. Last year, they let you put as much as 30% of your own money out of pocket, plus the 20% from the state. So you could have bought $1 million home last year with $300,000 from the state. And they had no limit. You could get the full 200, you get 20%, 200 grand. So you borrowed $500,000 to buy $1 million home last year. And they realized that's not focused on our target audience. And so they had to figure out how to focus on their target audience. I think they went a little bit too far the other way. All right. Peter says, I live in Lodi. Peter, I have an office in Lodi. I know Lodi very, very well. San Joaquin County, but I don't see it on the regions. It is in the Central Coast. Oh, well, I'm a bum. Oh, no, it's not Central Coast, Central Valley. San Joaquin right here. So Central Valley, San Joaquin is right here in the middle of the Central Valley. So it's basically Fresno, Kern, Kings, Madera, Merced, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tulare counties. There are 170 based on my count, my math, 170 winners in the Central Valley and 510 people. You are number 571, which means my math is off a little bit, but that tells me you're pretty high on the list. That tells me, again, my math is estimated, but it tells me that the Central Valley represented 10% of the state last year and population. And if we have 1,700 winners, that's 170. 3 times on the wait list is 510. You're number 571. I don't think you have much of a chance at all, Peter. I hate to say that, but again, my math is not exact. But I would say being 571, that puts you pretty much at the highest end of what I count and what I would expect for the Central Valley region's waitlist. Aaron says, what is the cutoff on the waitlist that you're estimating will receive a voucher in the capital region? Are you estimating most people use about 100,000 out of the 150? That's a tough call. I have a lot of people who are looking to buy in the capital region that are spending $750,000. I have a lot that are spending $500,000. So I think it'll be somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a piece. You are currently number 7. Congratulations, seriously. Number 7. Number 17, I missed the one. That's still really good. Number 17 on the wait list. I feel like by September, by the end of September, you have a really, really good chance. And we should meet and talk specifics on how to make sure you're best prepared. But Aaron, you have a really good chance, like not just kind of good, like really, really good chance of getting selected because you're number 17 in the capital region. All right. Again, you guys have more questions, feel free to ask. I want to dive in and answer your questions. I hope that I covered. I'm just looking back through here really quick. I think I did cover all of the questions so far. We're going to have a lot more time to talk through questions as I continue to go through this presentation. All right. So now let me move out of here and go back here. So how do we figure out, how do we estimate, how am I guessing how many people on the wait list are going to get a shot? And it has to do with pull through, or the opposite thing is fallout percentage, kind of like glass half full, glass half empty. So you have to decide, we have to project what percentage of the people who got a voucher are going to successfully use their voucher in their 90-day window. Now, let me throw a curveball at you. Cal Halfa said, I won't say publicly, Cal Halfa included in their FAQ when you logged into the portal to sign up, they included an FAQ. And in that FAQ, it said, how do I apply for an extension? And it talked about applying for a 90-day extension, and Cal Haffa will get back to you in a period of time to let you know if your extension was granted. So I, trying to be proactive and giving you guys as much information as I can, reached out to Cal Haffa and said, hey, Cal Haffa, what's the story here on who you're going to grant an extension to, and what are the rules? And they said, extension, John, what are you talking about? We've said nothing about extensions. Okay, well, you did, because it's in your FAQ. And they replied and said, oh, well, we haven't talked about it publicly because we have no idea who we're going to grant extensions to. So, or what circumstances we're going to require in order to grant them an extension. So right now, just pretend it's not there. But those of you on the wait list, you have to wonder, who's Cal Haffa going to grant an extension to and why? And are they going to give somebody an extra 3 months to find a home? Now, I think it's appropriate for them to give extra time if somebody has written an offer on a home, they went through the appraisal process, and there was a problem on the appraisal, and they had to cancel that property. So they're actively looking, and now that they canceled, they're running out of time to find another home. I think that's logical. I think if somebody had a severe illness and was hospitalized for 60 days and couldn't go out and shop for homes, it's a good reason to give somebody an extension. I think if somebody just didn't write offers, just was hoping that prices would come down, was hoping their credit score would rebound and come back up, was hoping that they were going to get a better paying job and be able to pay for a higher priced home, those people don't deserve an extension. I don't know who they're going to grant an extension to, but it is going to impact your ability to move up on the waiting list. So we're going to talk more about the waiting list, and then we're going to talk about options if you don't go on the waiting list. So if you've already decided, hey, I am too far down on the waiting list, John, you told me I had no chance, Peter, we talked about that. Don't tune out, because I'm going to show you other alternatives of things to be thinking about. So I'm going to first focus on how am I coming up with your chances. I believe, and both myself and my colleagues that I've talked to think the highest fallout will be 50%. What that means is if 100 people were given a voucher right now, I think it's going to be somewhere between 25 and 40 of them that won't succeed in buying a home. It might be less. It might be that 90 out of 100 buy a home in the next 90 days and only 10% of those vouchers roll over. Now, I'm not accounting for the extra cookie dough that was left over that we didn't spend the 150 grand. So that money is absolutely available. And it looks like my video just went out. That's no fun. Hold on 1 second here. Let me try and fix something. Give me 2 seconds. I told you I was hoping I didn't have the video problems I did last week, but I am having those problems. And let's see if hopefully this helps. And I gotta turn on my air conditioning. All right, cool. So I have a new camera, and a new camera seems to not like overheating. It seems to not like getting warm. All right, so now are you turning on again? Now you're turning on again. Let's see, can you see me now? Maybe, yeah, you can. Okay, I'm back. All right, so, and it's gone. So we're going to switch to the backup camera, which is no big deal. I just don't like the backup camera as well. Let's go here. Hold on 1 second, gang. Thank you for your patience as I go here and I go here. And now there's my camera. So I'm going to stare up there and thinking that I'm looking at you when really you're down here. Not as good of a camera, not as flattering of an angle, but who cares? You're here for the information, not for the model that's talking. All right. So the question is, how many people are going to fall out? And the answer ultimately is going to come from why will people fall out? So if we look at here, some people already purchased. I'm looking at that camera still. Some people have already purchased. Some people, they applied for a voucher. They thought, I don't have a chance of winning. I had one already. One of my winners said, John, I already bought. Didn't use me to buy. I was disappointed. I fired him. Actually, I guess he fired me first. Anyway, he said, I already bought. So I'm not buying. I don't want to use my voucher. He needs to go in and he needs to withdraw his voucher. If he does, then somebody else gets a voucher immediately, and your number on the waiting list moves down by 1. Some of you have probably already noticed your numbers moving down. I have enough people giving me feedback that said, yes, my number has moved down, that I'm confident that the numbers are real time, and that every time somebody gets a voucher, your number moves down. So Aaron, you're currently number 17. I don't know if you started at a higher number or not, but you'll likely see over the next 90 days that number will move down a little bit as somebody withdraws. Why would somebody withdraw? And by the way, if they don't withdraw, at the end of the 90 days, the voucher automatically goes away unless they were granted an extension. So what are the reasons that we'd have fallout? They already purchased. Maybe their credit score fell. Maybe their credit score wasn't good enough in the first place, but the lender they were working with said, you know, I'm pretty sure that you can improve your credit. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a voucher, give you a pre-approval letter, and a game plan to improve your credit. And it never worked. They didn't improve their credit. So there's a lot of variables here on credit, and maybe they don't meet the credit score criteria. Maybe their income went up a little bit and it caused them to exceed the income limits. Maybe it caused them to go from low income to regular income, and now the credit score requirement went from 660 to 680, and now they don't qualify anymore. Maybe they had a job relocation and they're not buying in California anymore, or they're unable to find a home. Maybe they thought, you know what, well, let's just give this thing a shot and see if I can get a voucher. And technically, I'm only qualified for $450,000 in Orange County, but maybe I'll find a house for $450,000, who knows? And now that they're actually looking and they're like, I can't find anything at $450,000. So those people are going to fall out. So there's a lot of unknowns that could cause somebody to fall out. And so the question is, what percentage of the people will fall out? Now, I'm going to say you guys want more people to fall out, okay? So I'm going to use 50% number to say, let's assume 50% of the people who got a voucher are not successful in using that voucher. Then let's walk through the math and the timeline. So if there are 100 voucher winners, I'm using 100 because you can think of 100%. So when I talk about somebody in LA County being number 100, they're actually in the 25th percentile because LA County has over 400 winners. Okay, if you are number 400 in LA County, you're basically the same as the 100th percentile. You're number 800 in LA County, you're the 200th percentile. Okay, so I'm saying, let's assume there's 100 winners. That means there's 300 people that are waitlisted in that county. June 28th, those 100 people were notified. By September 30th, we assume 50% can't buy. Now, between June 28th and September 30th, maybe it's not September 30th, September 28th, whatever it is, between that time, some people will withdraw right away or withdraw within that timeline. So some of these winners will be notified before the end of September. But the majority of you who are going to get a voucher off of the wait list will get it at the end of September. Because I think a lot of these people that are having issues with their credit are going to say, well, let's try and fix it over the next 60 days and see if I still have time to find a home. They're not going to give up their golden ticket without trying. So you're likely going to have the biggest amount of people from the waiting list getting on to the list of getting a voucher at the end of each quarter. So let's walk through this. If half of the 100 people don't buy, then people numbers 1 through 50. Now remember, 50 is really 50% of whatever the number of vouchers issued. So in Los Angeles County, if half the people can't buy, that's about 200 people that don't buy, which means waitlisters number 1 through 200 get a voucher. Now, those people have 90 days to find a home. So they're going to have until the end of December. Let's assume that 50 number, half of them can't buy. That's 25%. Now, Julie has a question. Julie, I'll get to your question in just a second. That is 25%, or numbers 51 through 75. The 50th through the 75th percentile get a voucher at the end of December. They have until March 30th to find a home. So now you have 25% of the total population of winners is searching for a home, and that's people number 51 to 75. If on March 30th, half of those 25 can't buy, that's 12 more people that now get a voucher, which is number 76 to 88. They have 3 more months to buy. If those people can't, 50% of them can't buy, then on June 30th of next year, a year from now, there's another 6 people who are going to get a voucher and start searching. That's numbers 89 through 94. We never got to 100%, ever. We never hit, based on this math, we never hit the 100% number of the people on the wait list compared to the vouchers issued. So I'm going to go back and explain to you again using this chart to say we never got to a total of 350 waitlisters in that math, in that 50% number. And I don't think it's any more than 50. I think it's less than 50% that are not going to use their voucher. But if it was 50%, you have 50 and then 25 and then 12 and then 6. You never got to the 100%. We never got to number 351 on the wait list. And you have 300% on the wait list. That is exactly correct, Franco. That's 100% correct. So I worry about the waitlisters, because if you are between 100% of the vouchers issued and the 300% cap, I don't think you have a chance. Peter, you talked about San Joaquin County and you're in the 800s. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's 200 vouchers in San Joaquin County, which means that we're looking at, I'm sorry, you're in the 600, whatever my point is. You've got, you guys understand my point. If you're at the high end, you're in trouble. If you're even past the count that Cal HAFA originally planned on providing, which was an equal number of waitlisters as there were vouchers, and they never thought we'd hit that number, but they didn't want to take the chance. They probably did the same math I did and said, we're going to get maybe to the 92nd percentile. Maybe. By the way, at some point, they're just going to stop issuing vouchers and leave the extra money in the account to be added to the future. Okay. That's the same thing that happened last year. Is there's people who didn't buy and they left that money and added it to this year's money. So we're not going to see money next year. We might see money the year after that. And Cal HAFA just knows, hey, some people are going to pay us off in 3 months and that money just goes back into the pot. We're not going to offer it to more people down the road. So I have no clue how many rounds they will give. Maybe they're going to say, hey, by March 30th, it's the last round. And no matter how many people don't use that money, we're not going to issue another round of vouchers after a certain date. I have no idea how long they're going to continue to issue vouchers. But at some point, they're going to say, we're done. We're done. The program's done. Even if there's a little bit of cookie dough left over in the bowl, that you could maybe carve out one or two more cookies out of it, they're gonna wash their hands and say, we're done. We can't continue. So if your wait list number in the rural areas is greater than 68, your chances of getting a voucher are pretty slim. Again, I'm guessing on these totals. These are not exact math, but you got to look at it and say, if I'm way above that number, there's no way we're going to get there. And I don't want, now you can wait. It's no big deal. It doesn't hurt. If you weren't going to buy anyway, unless you got a voucher, then wait. And if you're on the wait list and you know for sure that you bought something else and you're moving forward and you don't want to be on the wait list anymore, withdraw your request, because that way somebody else further up on the wait list can have a shot instead of it getting assigned to you that you didn't need it. Now, if you're out shopping for a home, you decided, hey, John, I want to go with a buy now option that I'm going to talk about in a minute here. And you say, I'm out shopping for a home. And if a voucher happens to come available, I'll take it. Then don't withdraw. But if you complete the purchase, then withdraw even while you're on the wait list to do the right thing for your fellow friends who are also still waiting on the wait list. All right. So now let's talk about what if you buy now. Let's look at, okay, John, what are my choices now if I wanted to move forward? And I'll tell you that, first of all, yes, we can still do 0 down payment, but there is no program as good as the Dream for All program. None. It doesn't exist. This is the dream. This is the most amazing program out there, but it comes at a really high cost. So maybe you're better off doing it without this program and not have that high cost. So let me explain to you how the numbers are going to work. So the first thing you need to know, there really isn't a program right now that's also going to help you with closing costs. So you got to prepare for about 4 to 4.5% of your purchase price to come out of your pocket towards closing costs. Now, somebody asked me earlier, John, can I put extra money down? Yeah, if you use any of these other programs, you can put as much down payment as you want on top of the money coming from the program. So you have a lot more flexibility there. But let's be clear, if you don't have a whole bunch of money to put out of pocket, and the only thing you're paying for is your closing costs, you can get 100% of the purchase price financed. But there are 2 things you have to realize are going to change. One of 2. One, your payment is going to be higher for the same purchase price because you're not getting as much assistance money. So I'm going to use the example of buying a $650,000 home as I talk about numbers going forward during this call. You buy a $650,000 home with Dream for All, you got $130,000 of assistance, which means you were making a payment on a $520,000 home. Now, if you want to have a $650,000 home, you're going to have about a $630,000 loan amount. you're making a payment on $100,000 more. That is going to be a higher monthly payment. So be aware of that, or you have to lower your purchase price in order to have the same monthly payment. So let's look at the numbers. First of all, in this example, we're looking at Dream for All and saying, hey, if you buy a $650,000 home with Dream for All, so if you waited and you ended up getting it with Dream for All, and I'm just calling the rate 6.99, your payment is $43.22. I'm assuming you put the full amount towards down payment, and your cash to close is just the closing cost, which is about $26,000. Now, if you said, John, I want to see if I can pull the trigger now, but I can't afford a higher monthly payment, or I'm unwilling to pay a higher monthly payment, or I am not qualified to pay a higher monthly payment, then you've got to lower your price to $535,000 in order to have basically the same monthly payments. For some people, it's like, John, I can't find a house at $535,000. Well, if that's the most payment you qualify for is the $4,400, there's nothing we can do except maybe add a cosigner or look in a different area. Maybe you think, hey, I should consider commuting and moving to a different area. Maybe buy a smaller home. Have the conversation with your realtor about where can I buy a lower priced home and what am I giving up? Is it commute distance? Is it age of the home? Is it quality of the home? But recognize you don't have to buy your forever home now. You can buy a home and then stair step up from that home down the road. And you're not sharing a bunch of appreciation with the states. Okay, so it's a whole different ball of wax as far as your ability to upgrade down the road. Now, what if you said, John, I want to buy a house at $650,000, then you have to be willing to pay more per month. And you're talking about $1,000 more a month. And whoa, John, no way. I can't afford $1,000 a month. I'm going to show you some math here in a second, and I'm going to be cliche when I say it, and I'll say you can't afford not to. Now, you have to qualify for that $5,400 a month payment. You have to be willing to write a check every month for that $5,400 a month payment. But for a lot of people, they just don't want to. And so I'm not going to tell you to be house poor. I'm not asking you to be house poor. I'm not trying to convince you to be stuck with a house payment and not have any money to do anything else with. I'm going to show you how you have a lot of wealth building that you're getting through home ownership, that maybe you can stop putting as much money into your 401k for now. Until you get a pay raise or until you refinance to get a lower monthly payment, maybe you cut back how much is going into the 401k. And instead you use that money every month to help make your monthly payment. Maybe you are in a position, Mohammed, I'll answer your question in a second. Maybe you are in a position to be able to, you're putting money into savings every month and you're putting $1,000 a month into your savings account. And you like that because then you have that extra money in savings. Maybe you pull that money back and you start putting that money into home ownership because you're going to make more money in the long run by putting that money into home ownership. So Mohammed says it costs $25,000 to close a home on top of the Dream for All voucher. No, with Dream for All. So first of all, your normal closing costs for buying a home are anywhere from 3 to 3.5% of the purchase price of a home. But when you buy using Dream for All or any down payment assistance program, the closing costs are higher, typically about 1% higher. And the reason is simple, because mortgage companies get paid in two ways. We get paid from the fee you pay up front, and we get paid by servicing income, money that you are receiving, that we are receiving every single month by you making your monthly payment to us. We keep a little portion of it for our trouble, and we send the rest on to FHA or Fannie Mae or whoever the investor is. But with the down payment assistance programs, we don't make any money in the servicing. That money all goes to CalHFA. So therefore, the cost, the profit in doing a loan is half of what it is when we do a normal loan. Now, we recoup a portion of that by the fee being higher up front. So you're typically around 4 to 4.5% of your purchase price that you're going to pay in closing costs. But if you are selected and you get a voucher, you can use that money from the Dream for All money. So you don't have to put the entire Dream for All 20% towards down payment. You can hold back 4.5% of that and use it to pay for closing costs. Now you're putting 15.5% down. Now, and I'll go a little bit deeper and say, in that scenario, if you are selected for a voucher and you said, John, I don't want to put any money out of pocket, I can do that. And you have to pay mortgage insurance because you're not putting 20% out of pocket. But here's the cool thing. You don't have to pay mortgage insurance monthly. You can pay mortgage insurance as a one-time fee. And if you have good credit, that one-time fee is less than 0.5% of your loan amount. So that means the fee goes from around 4.5% to 5%, which means in total, you're putting 15% for down payment, you're putting 5% for closing costs, and you're spending nothing out of pocket to buy a home. So Mohammed, I hope that answers your question. Heather said, will this be recorded and sent? Yes, it 100% will be recorded. It is being recorded. And yes, it will be sent out to you after the call. All right. So you have to decide, am I willing to spend $1,000 more per month? Well, let's look at this mathematically. If we think about Dream for All versus non-Dream for All, and we say, all right, so what are my choices? If I waited and did Dream for All, here I am looking at the wrong camera again. If I waited and did Dream for All versus if I just pulled the trigger now. And I'm using the My Home program, which is 3% extra and down payment assistance that comes from the same company, same state agency, Cal HFA. There is an option to get some extra money for closing costs, up to 2 to 3% extra, but your rate goes up significantly and it genuinely is not worth it. If it's the only way you can buy a house, great, I'll show you how, but it genuinely isn't worth the significant bump in interest rate. Having said that, let's look at the math. If you Google right now, the average home price appreciation in California, and I am going to. So let's pull this up here right now. Let's see, will you help me? Will you come up on my screen, please? Let's see, why can I not see my Chrome is not happy. I might not be able to do it. Anyway, you can Google it. And if you Google average home price appreciation, here we are. All right. So average home price appreciation per year in California. So this is not my math. This is not me making it up. So here is somebody saying California came in at 6.77 annually over the 39-year time frame. Now, I don't know when they did that, when that was created. Here, Redfin just last year was 9.7. Here is an article in 2020. This is before part of an increase, but not the huge increase we saw in late 2020 and 2021. Home price appreciation is 4 to 6% per year. Average home appreciation in California 6 days ago. That said from 1992 to 2023, 6.4%. So your home goes up on average 4 to 6% per year in the state of California. Now that math, I'm going to use 5% as my number. So if you bought a house for $650,000, the first year your house goes up by 5%. That's $32,000 and it's worth $682,000. Next year it goes up by $34,000. Why? Because the new value goes up by 5%. It's called compounding. So now the house is worth $716,000. If you said, John, I'm going to wait 2 years for Dream for All to come back out. The problem is that same $650,000 home is going to be $716,000 in 2 years if Dream for All comes out at that time. And again, I see zero chance of it coming out. I don't know if I said it on this call because this is my 6th call of these, 2 for each of the groups of people on the wait list selected and not selected. Cal HFA had zero money allocated in last year's budget. The state of California issues their budget in June. We're late. It's not issued yet. They have a draft. It hasn't been finalized. The state's, this is my camera. The state is losing money. The state does not have extra money to allocate. So last year, 2 years ago, they allocated $500 million and then they cut that back a little bit. We used that money in March of 2023. And then last year, they said, we're going to take the rest of the money that we held back and we're going to issue it next year, which is the money that we're using right now. There was zero money allocated last year for 2024, 2025. There is zero money allocated this year going forward either in the budget. So our best first opportunity is in June, July of 2025 that the state will allocate more money if they have enough revenue and profit to this program. And they're committed, based on everything I've read, to funding this when they can. So the first opportunity they have to funding this money is going to be in July of 2025. But we've seen that it takes them 6 to 9 months to get the money released. So therefore, they're not releasing the money, actually 9 to 12 months. They're not releasing the money until spring of the following year, which means it's going to be spring of 2026 before you can get a hold of any money that was allocated in the budget that's released a year from now. No money is in the budget that's being released right now. So you're looking at least 2 years if you're waiting for future Dream for All. And so looking at this over a 5-year timeline, and I'm using my numbers saying, hey, let's pretend you bought a home right now and it maybe wasn't your perfect home, but you upgraded to your perfect home in 5 years. What is it going to look like if you did that with Dream for All, waiting and hoping, or with using the buy it now option of the My Home program? Your house is going to increase $179,000 during that timeline. So let's look at the math. What would I owe in 5 years? If you did Dream for All, well, your first mortgage drops from $520 to $489. You got $130,000 from the state. Your appreciation is $180, which means that at the time you sell, you owe Dream for All 20% of the appreciation, or about 36 grand, plus the $130 you borrowed. When you pay off your mortgage and this money, you got about $174,000 in your pocket. Pretty good deal. But here's the difference if you do My Home. Same numbers, but just in a table. So now instead of starting out owing $520, you owe $630. So you owe an extra $110,000. Your first mortgage is at the end of the 5 years is $593. Your second, the assistance money, was only $19,500. The biggest difference comes right here in this line. It's going to move. Okay. So it comes right here in this line, because you've got $19,000 you're getting in assistance compared with $130. But with Dream for All, you're paying 20% of your appreciation. That means you're paying 20% of how much the price has gone up. That's $36,000. And you have to pay back the original money. With the My Home program, you borrow $19,500. Your interest is 1% per year. That is $195 a year in interest. That's it. So in 5 years, 195 times 5 is $975. That is all you owe in interest. You saved $35,000. So yes, you spent $1,000 more per month, but you paid $35,000 less over the 5-year timeline. You're still better off if you went Dream for All, but not very much. You're not very much better off. It really comes out to only about $281 a month better off. And then you have to look at your tax savings. So I'm going to dive in right now and really look at these numbers more carefully using what I call my why buy now calculation. I'll be able to create this for any of you if we set up a one-on-one conversation. So this is, what if you bought that same $650,000 home using Dream for All? So you have a payment of $3,456 and your total including taxes and insurance is about $4,241. Now you get 3 ways to build wealth being a homeowner. Remember, I'm showing you Dream for All first. 3 ways to build wealth being a homeowner. The first is your tax deduction. So a tax deduction says I get to take all of the money I paid in interest, plus all of the money I paid in property taxes up to 10 grand of property taxes. And that grand total is subtracted from my income. In other words, I get to earn that amount of money tax-free. Now you have a standard deduction you have to compare it to, and you have other deductions you can add if you're itemizing. So it gets a little bit complicated, and this is where you want to talk to a tax advisor. But in general, you'd be getting about $815 a month, or almost $10,000 extra as a tax refund at the end of the year, because you're a homeowner compared with being a renter. Now, this is if you wait for the Dream for All, which is a good program, and you're going to have a lower monthly payment. But I want to compare what if you didn't wait. First, we're just going to do the Dream for All option. Your second benefit of owning a home is your forced savings account. What's forced savings, John? It means every single month you make a monthly payment, a portion of that payment goes towards your balance being paid down. That's like putting money into your savings account or into a CD or into your 401k that you can't touch for a long time, but it is your money. Because when you pay rent, there is a mortgage balance being paid down. It just goes to somebody else. Mohammed asked a question. If we already have a lender and got the pre-approval letter, can we still switch to you if we got off the wait list? You can switch to me no matter what. So thank you. I didn't say it yet. I planned on saying it, and I'm going to say it now, and then I'm going to say it at the end. I am interviewing to be your lender. If you did not pick me in the beginning, shame on you. I'm just kidding. If you didn't pick me in the beginning, that's okay, because on the Dream for All voucher, it says, bring this voucher to the lender who pre-approved you or any other Cal HAFA approved lender of your choice. I am a Cal HAFA approved lender. So Mohammed, if you got a voucher and you say, I want to use John, I am interviewing for that job. I will show you at the end of this presentation how you can start that process now so that we can make sure you're best aligned. I am a huge fan of giving advice early to make sure that you're on track. make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row and lined up to make it happen. And if you decide, you know what, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to stay on the wait list. And I'd rather just look at these options that John is showing me today. I can help you with that too. And I'll give you the link to get started at the end. So no rush if you're not ready to start right now. But if you know you're ultimately going to buy a home and you feel comfortable that you'd rather use me than your current lender, then I would suggest we start the process soon and we start looking through your numbers and having a one-on-one consultation. So Mohammed, thank you for asking that question. For sure, I am interviewing for that job and I would appreciate the opportunity for you to allow me to do that. All right, so we've got forced savings, which is money that's going from one pocket to another. It's still your money. And if you're paying rent, that pays down the landlord's balance, and that's the landlord's money, but the landlord gives you nothing as a benefit for making that payment every single month. They don't hold some of that later for you to give it back, but when you pay your mortgage, you do. And then the other thing you get is you get appreciation. Now, that's the big one that everybody says, yeah, but I don't know if prices are going to go up or if they're going to go down. Well, I'll tell you, prices they do go up and they do go down. But I'm going to show you right now. Oops, let's do it this way. Same thing. St. Louis Fed average. So St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank. And it gives us the median sales price of homes sold in the United States going back to the early 60s. And what we're looking at here is the question of people saying, yeah, John, appreciation. But I had a family member who lost their home in 2008 because house prices crashed. And I think that appreciation is really not as good of a deal as people say because you're going to lose money. There's no guarantee it'll go up. You're right. There's no guarantee it'll go up. But I'll tell you the biggest times that house prices have dropped, early 90s. They went from 126,000 down to 117,000. You're talking about an almost 10% decrease in home prices. But remember, this was in the middle of 1990 that it hit the peak. And it got back over that number in 2 years. It only took 2 years to get from 126,800 back up to $127,000. Now, if you had to sell in those 2 years, you were in trouble, especially if you put a small down payment, you were in trouble. Even if you use Dream for All and you have a big down payment, you owe a big amount of money. You are in trouble if you had to sell during those 2 years. Same holds true here in 2007. Prices hit a peak nationally of 257,400. They crashed by almost 20% and fell down to $208,400. That was 2009. By 2011, they weren't that much higher. They certainly weren't back up to the 250,000, 260,000 they were, but then they started climbing again. And by the time we got to 2013, we're talking about 6 years later, by the time they got to 2013, we were back above the crash. That was the biggest housing crash in recorded history. And in 6 years, we were back above. Add 4 more years to that. Go out to 2017, a 10-year timeline. And your house price went from 260 to 337. You add another, 5 years, 6, 7 years? Actually, not even that, by 2022. So we're talking about 5 years. And that 337 went up to 442. And you're saying, yeah, but John, that was a huge jump. Well, this was a huge jump too. And in small view, that looks like a huge jump as you zoom out, I should say. But here you've got prices have been stagnant. Prices have fallen a little bit. That's the same that happens right here from 2017 to 2020. Houses kind of fell a little bit. And everybody's freaking out. Oh my God, it's horrible to own a home because I bought a house in 2017 for $337. And here I have to sell it in 2019, 2 years later, and it's dropped by $20,000. Home ownership sucks. It's a bad idea. You just didn't hold out long enough. So you have to make sure that you got a long enough time horizon. But if you have a long enough time horizon, home ownership wins. It has historically never lost over time. And those people who sold right here and they said, oh my God, the market's crashing and it's the beginning of 2020 and COVID hit and prices dropped even more. And oh my God, nobody can buy a home because nobody can go out of their house. If they just would have held on a little bit longer, okay? In a year, that average price went from $317,000 to $437,000, $112,000 increase in the average home price in a little bit over a year. That's not normal either. But all of it, you have big jumps and then you have some small drops, big jumps and small drops, but a long enough period of time. There's never been a 10-year period of time in history where house prices ended that 10-year time lower than the beginning. But if you know you have a job transfer in 6 months or in 2 years, I'd be nervous. I don't think prices are coming down, but I get it. I understand. But if you're going to be in that house for 5 to 10 years, and you can foresee yourself being in that house for at least 5 years, the math, the history, the statistics are on your side that home ownership is a great bet. So let's finish talking now about the appreciation. I said it's 3%, and we said it's 4 to 6, and one of the articles said over 6% in California. Just using 3%, that is $1,625 a month. A month. Did I say a month in appreciation? Okay, we're talking about over $18,000 a year in appreciation on that home, which means when you add up these savings that you get, this wealth building that you get, you're building wealth at a pace of $2,867 a month. Now your payment was $4,241. And you're saying, John, you're still talking about Dream for All at a payment of $42. I have rent for $2,500 a month. I had a hard enough time justifying that bump from $2,500 to $4,200. And if I don't get Dream for All, I can't afford $1,000 more than that. Well, let me show you something. Your net cost after now again, you got to be able to write the check for the $4,200 if you get Dream for All. It's going to look worse in a second if you don't. But after you subtract this out, you're really only paying $1,375 compared to your $2,500 in rent. Like, it is a significant difference, and that's where wealth building comes from. There was a survey done recently. The average net worth of a homeowner. Net worth is the amount you have in assets, what your house is worth, what your car is worth, what you have in the bank accounts and 401k, minus what you owe in credit card debts and house mortgage debt and car loans. And the average net worth of a homeowner is $393,000. $393,000, and this is how it happens. Versus the average net worth of a renter is $10,250. Yeah, night and day difference. So the moment you become a homeowner, do you automatically have that much extra net worth? No, but this stuff really adds up. In a year, that's about $35,000. In 5 years, it's 177 grand. That's really the number we talked about on the other screen. In 10 years, you're 370 grand. In 30 years, it's going to add up to $1.37 million, $1,370,000. Now let's look at what happens if you are buying a home using the My Home program. So now your loan amount is $630,000, which means the $4,241 goes up, and it goes up to $5,200, $1,000 more per month, like I've been telling you. But here's the deal. You get more tax savings because you're paying more in interest. You're actually paying interest on the full amount. You aren't paying any interest on your Dream for All money. And even though you're paying appreciation of way more, that's not a write-off. So you get a tax write-off for a higher dollar amount. You have more money going into your forced savings account because you're making a payment on a higher dollar amount. Your appreciation is the same. So that's $3,099, which means compared to your $2,500 a month rent, you're only paying $2,163 in effective cost when you compare renting, where you get none of these benefits, versus owning a home. And oh, by the way, that chart said 4 to 6% per year. So if we make this 5, like the numbers I've been looking at all along, that's $2,700 a month in appreciation. That's where wealth building comes from. That's where people take a home and they buy it and they get some equity in it, and then they transfer that into a bigger and better home because you have a bigger amount of money for a down payment. And at that point in time, you don't care that prices have gone up because you're already in a home. So the price of your home's going up. Maybe the price of the home that you're buying is going up, but you take that equity, trade it into the next home. You no longer need down payment assistance, and you're in a position where you can get a lower interest rate because rates are expected to go down in the future. The unknown is when. Bronco asks, historically, is it normal that rent is lower than a mortgage payment? It's gotten worse. So historically, in some markets, you've been able to have an equal rent versus mortgage payment, and inflation. The price of homes, the interest rates, it is significantly more expensive to own a home than it is to rent in the short term. But here's the deal with rent. Historically, rents go up every single year. You're looking at an average of a 5% increase in your rent payment per year minimum. Your house payment is locked in. It stays the same, and you have the ability to refinance and have it go down. So the moment you become a homeowner, you jump up. Now, you got all these benefits long-term that are going to help you with wealth building, but there's one more piece, which is your income typically will continue to go up. So you might get a pay raise of 5% per year, but your rent went up by 5% per year, so you didn't actually get anywhere. But with a mortgage payment, your mortgage payment's up here, your income's going to keep going up, then your mortgage payment stays the same or goes down. So therefore, your mortgage payment goes down because you can refinance, but it becomes a lower percentage of your income over time. So the question is, how do you become a homeowner now? Because time is what you need in order to make homeownership less expensive. Look at the people who bought homes years and years ago. And you look at this math and say, well, gosh, John, of course I could have bought a home back in 2013, because houses were only $273,000 on average, and now they're double that. Okay, so I could buy a house back then and interest rates were lower. So clearly I could afford it, but back then it didn't feel affordable. It never feels affordable to become a homeowner, ever. Okay, it's kind of like asking the question, am I prepared to have a baby? I don't know about you, but I think most people, they really think about it. You're never prepared to have a baby. You just have one. Hopefully you gave some thought to it and it was planned, but the fact of the matter is you're never truly prepared. You don't know what's going to happen, but you do it and you figure it out as you go. That's kind of the deal with home ownership. And I'm not telling you to jump in blindly. I'm not telling you that if you can't afford the payment, you should do it. I'm telling you should not. If you cannot afford the monthly payment, do not jump in to home ownership. But if you can wrangle some things around, if you can pull back some of your savings, if you can find another way, if you can pull some money out of savings to put a bigger down payment, to have a lower monthly payment, a lot of you that I've talked to have money to put towards a down payment. You just didn't want to because you wanted to use the Dream for All program instead. So this gives you that opportunity to get into a home so that you can get the future wealth building. In this case, with 5% appreciation, you're getting $2,700 a month in average appreciation, which means your cost, even though your payment is $5,200 a month for a $650,000 home using the My Home program with the small down payment that you're paying your own closing costs, you are absolutely better off than renting because you're getting these three benefits that add up to over $4,000 a month. If you're renting, you're paying $2,500 a month. In this situation, you're really long-term, it's only costing you $1,000 a month to be a homeowner. It is a night and day difference. All right, so let's go back here. I'm gonna wrap up with questions. So I've been answering questions all along. I'm going to end with this on the screen. Mohammed mentioned it earlier. Guys, I am interviewing for the job to be your lender. I get paid for doing mortgages. I like being on YouTube. I like putting information out there. The truth is, I don't do enough YouTube in order to get paid for it. So don't think I'm a YouTube star that makes my money off of it. I enjoy educating people, and I do it as an opportunity to show you why I'm different and how I'm different. If you think I'm different and you think it's worth working with me, I don't care if you're buying now or 5 years from now. I just want to help educate you. I want to be the person in your corner that you turn to when you have questions, when your friends and family have questions. And I really want to give you a one-on-one consultation to talk through your scenario and your options. So if you are on the wait list and you're down towards the low numbers, or you're saying, I think I'm going to get a voucher, we should talk very, very soon. You should click this QR code, scan it, or go to apply.johnloanking.com. You can start the loan application process. Okay, we can start looking at your numbers and strategizing and getting you ready so that you're ready to pull the trigger once you get a voucher. If you're way high on the list, or you don't want to wait, but you're thinking, I do want to use these options and I want to look at these scenarios that John brought up, that's also something we should do. If you've already met with me, we've already done your pre-approval, then we need to set up a one-on-one just to go through that and say, hey, what does the math look like? What will I let you spend? And what are you willing to spend? You cannot buy a house that has a payment more than the mortgage industry will let you spend. But there's some hacks. There's some ways you can bring in a renter to help you like rent out rooms. That doesn't help you with what I'll let you spend. But for a lot of you, I'll let you spend this, but you want to spend that. How do you bridge the gap? That's where you rent out a room. That's where you buy a house that has an ADU and you rent out the ADU. Okay, lots of ways that we can look at house hacking to make this work for you. There's other programs, Cal HAFA doesn't allow it, but I have other programs that let you buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. And we get to count the rental income in how much I can qualify you for. And I also have 0 down payment options to buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property. So if you're thinking, hey, I don't know how to make this work, but I like the numbers you're talking about, John. I like the concept of what you're saying, but I want to figure out if I can make it work for me. I would love to have a one-on-one appointment with you. So I am, let me be very, very clear. If you have a question, ask it now. If your question is complicated, you can, and you're on the live video on Zoom, then you can unmute yourself and you can ask me the question live. If you post in chat right now, I'll answer the question. Otherwise, I'm about done. So I'll simply recap while I'm waiting to see if anybody unmutes or posts a question. And I'm simply going to say, gang, I really appreciate your trust. I'm going to continue to provide information and to help guide you. I am not here to pressure you. I'm not here to convince you to purchase a home. What I'm here to do is to educate you on the real benefits of homeownership, on how you can be one of those people that hits the $393,000 in average net worth compared to the $10,250. It is a game changer, but you have to have the right game plan to make it happen. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. Again, I value all of your time. I appreciate you joining me. We're just about at an hour right now. So if you want to move forward, you can start the application process. You can email us. My contact information is all over. You got it as part of the registration. I really appreciate everybody joining me. Hope you have a very, very wonderful and safe 4th of July, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.